All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant and your host for today. All right, so while everybody's just kind of coming in and settling down in front of their computers or phones or tablets or what have you, I'm just going to go ahead and ask Lisa a question of the day. So, since the holidays are coming up really close, they're creeping up really fast, I just wanted to ask you, what is your favorite holiday movie?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh gosh, yeah, we did get because that was the same question I did ask over on Future Forward, and a lot of people did say It's a Wonderful Life, just because I would have to say it's like an absolute classic for Christmas.
Yeah, whenever it comes on, we can't not watch it, even though we've seen it 10,000 times.
Yeah, you just kind of
Yeah.
stay on the channel or
Elf
wherever
is
it's over.
Elf is kind of funny too. I
Yeah.
have to
Elf
say
comes
that
in
makes me
close.
laugh every time.
That's
So
that's another one that has been said during the whole webinar, and it's so funny. Well, all of the sessions actually. And I think a close third would have to be Home Alone. I personally really love Home Alone. I cannot live without that. Like every Christmas. But
I
it
do like
does.
Rudolph. I do like the
Oh
Grinch.
yeah.
I do
Yeah,
like those as well.
definitely.
I'm a
Definitely.
Clevelander from Cleveland, Ohio, so I have to say A Christmas Story because it was filmed here. I have childhood friends in the movie.
Oh wow, really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I
That's,
love that one
it's a
too.
nice
Those are
thing.
all great.
It's a nice thing to kind of bring up there. Just like a little brag. All right. Well, it looks like we do have a few people in already. So again, I just like to say good afternoon again, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant and your host for today. In this webinar, we'll actually be talking about leveraging QuickBooks to provide advisory services, grow the bottom line for your clients and your firm. Now, many, if not most of your clients likely rely on Intuit's QuickBooks to handle bookkeeping. Indeed, QuickBooks possesses 80% of the SMB market share, but increasingly Intuit is pushing its customers to its online platform and the QBO ecosystem. What does this mean for the future of your client base, and what can you do to help them retain the integrity and robust nature of their data and reporting? Now, join our wonderful speaker today, Lisa McCarthy, co founder and chief strategy officer of Out of the Box Technology, as she takes you into the future of small business accounting, outlining a path forward replete with seamless, best in breed solutions and growth opportunities for all stakeholders by creating a migration path to QuickBooks Online and its full ecosystem. Now, I'll have Lisa introduce herself in just a little bit after I cover a few of the housekeeping items. Now, CPE is actually being offered for this session, and you have to be in the session for about 50 minutes, and you have to answer all three of the poll questions. Now, if you have any questions for Lisa, please enter them in the Q&A panel, and I want you guys to be specific. You can't just ask her what movie. Which one of those? You got to ask her, hey, Lisa, which movie specifically out of those three did you like? Mainly, you got to be really that specific. Mainly because Lisa might not get to your question right after you put it in the Q&A portion. Now, we'll be sending you a copy of the slide deck and a link to the recording of this webinar after the webinar. And it's also going to be up on our YouTube page within about 24 hours. And if you guys want to go check it out over there, along with many other webinars that we've done in the past that might be of interest to you guys. Now, I'll also be putting a link to that YouTube channel into our chat for you guys to check out. And I'll be rolling out the links a bit throughout the webinar in case you might have missed it. And lastly, guys, do not forget that Insightful Accountants 2024 Pro Advisor Awards applications and nominations are still ongoing. And what does it actually take for you to be a part of Insightful Accountants 2024 Pro Advisor Awards? All it takes is for you to participate. Now, there are two ways to participate. It's actually being nominated by someone else, or you can nominate yourself, like give yourself a little pat on the back. And I'll actually be putting a link to that right into our chat as well for you guys to check out. And actually, that is all for me, Lisa. Welcome and thanks for being here.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for putting together all of the intro to what's coming up. And I also have Jeanette on the call, who is part of our sales and marketing, and she's going to be facilitating the movement of the webinar. So, the slides. So let's jump right in, Jeanette, and move to our first slide. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about what out-of-the-box technology is, but we are a firm that specializes in everything from accounting services to migrations to integrations to project accounting, but pretty much anything and everything QuickBooks. I've been in the QuickBooks space really from the very beginning. I started with QuickBooks when it was DOS 1.0. I think it had been on the market about a week and back in 1992. So I'm dating myself, but so I've grown up hardcore user from the very beginning and fell in love with the product sort of by accident. A guy at Egghead Software handed me the box and said, try this for small business accounting. And that's how I ended up using it. But, and then I started teaching classes all over the country. And I've been on a lot of councils for Intuit, their Enterprise Advanced Inventory Product Council, their Customer Accountant Advisory Council for a couple of years. I'm also the original author of all of the certification training courses and tests for the Pro Advisor program when it originally came out. So pretty much Intuit and QuickBooks has been my life. And I have seen the, migration over into the QuickBooks Online space and how it's affected my business and what I can offer. And when I say me, we have lots of people, but the team behind me, I've seen how it's affected our user base and, how I need to reposition the services that I provide to clients. So just want to share that with all of you and help you get prepared for the next decade of our life in the QuickBooks world. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, so today, that's what we're going to talk about. How can you leverage your services and your firm to take you to the next level in the QuickBooks accounting space? So first poll question, if you could take a second and answer that. On average, when was last time your clients upgraded? I didn't give everybody a second to answer. Okay, if we're ready to close that poll, we can move on. All right, so wow. So the results are showing that most clients are migrating this year. My guess is a lot of that has to do with all the messaging that's coming out from Intuit around QuickBooks getting sunsetted and the desktop version going away. I know Out of the Box has been heavily involved in migrations, and we're going to talk a lot about migrations and what that means for your clients. So that is kind of what I expected, that, basically half of your clients have been migrating. Okay. So if you're not aware, QuickBooks has about 84% market share that small businesses are using that software. Basically, all the other softwares out there take up the remainder of that space. Of the 84%, 30% of those clients are using still on the desktop software. So there's still quite a heavy user base that is holding on to the desktop software, and we'll talk about that and what they need to be thinking about and how you can be advising them on what's coming up and what are the things they need to be thinking about as they continue to hold on to that desktop software. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So why is it so important that everybody is moving from desktop to online? there's a lot of things that are going to affect your end users, your clients, as they move to QuickBooks Online about usability. It's really, in my opinion, it's going to be really an opportunity for the accountants to really get in deep and collaborate with their clientele in a much bigger way than they've ever been able to do in the past. We have several teams in our company that provide recurring services. And I would say the majority of all of the recurring services that we provide, we have encouraged them all to move to QuickBooks Online. Mostly, from our perspective, it makes it a lot easier for us to collaborate with them. So selfishly, QuickBooks Online is a great way from our standpoint to be able to provide services. But I think you'll find as we go through this presentation that there's a lot of reasons why it will benefit the client as well. So let's move to the next slide. So your clients are going to feel this pressure to keep moving with all the messaging that's coming from Intuit. And what does that exactly mean for your clients? It means they're moving to the cloud, and it's going to mean real-time synchronization between not only the things that you're trying to collaborate with them, but also all the front-end applications that they might be using. The cloud is just really the way of the future. And if we look at the client base that's signing up, all of the new businesses that are entering the marketplace, they all tend to go immediately to a SaaS model. Going to a desktop version is sort of something that the younger generation just really doesn't even want to entertain because they're already indoctrinated to everything being in the cloud. So the younger generation is going to immediately grasp onto the cloud. And the older generation, and I'm putting myself in there, is going to be kind of pulled along, kicking and screaming. But once they get there, they'll see the benefit. So the cloud is really where it's at in the future, and it's where all developers will be living and breathing. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So why do we want to embrace this? The cloud provides more security. A QuickBooks file that's sitting out on somebody's laptop or somebody's server can easily get hacked into. We've seen almost every hosting company out there on the planet get attacked by, cyber security threats and, people's files being held ransom. So security is a big concern and a big reason why people want to move to the cloud. From your perspective, being able to collaborate with your clients really should be your number one goal in the future, because if you can't collaborate with them and they find someone else that gives them an opportunity to collaborate, you might lose them as a client. So you want to be positioning yourself to build that collaboration tool right away, and getting them moved to QuickBooks Online will be your first step in the right direction. Scalability. We saw over COVID that pretty much everybody moved to remote workforce. You can't collaborate with trying to maintain a server and trying to get everybody connected in. It's just not a scalable way to do business anymore. So having a remote workforce, having apps that need to be connected and leveraging those third-party apps is going to be really important in the future. And you'll find that the best in breed third-party apps typically will all focus on the QuickBooks Online integration. They're starting to let go of having to maintain the web connector and all of the sort of archaic methods of talking to a QuickBooks file. So all of your really hardcore integrations are going to be built around the online platform. It's just not going to be worth their investment of those third-party developers to continue to maintain the desktop. And I personally do a lot of consulting with third-party app developers, and I can see that trend. They're just either not embracing, even trying to integrate with desktop, or they're trying to discontinue that integration. So your clients are going to be forced to, if they want to use any third-party apps, they're going to be forced to move their QuickBooks file to go along with it. So let's move to the next slide. All right, another question before we get to the next slide. Why do you want to embrace the shift to QuickBooks Online? What would be your reason? Give it another couple seconds and then I think we can close this question. That's what I figured. Pretty much all the above is going to be the biggest reason. And most interesting, no one chose increased security. So we don't seem too worried about security. I guess from our perspective, it's not as much of an issue. It's more the end clients that the security is an issue. But we do all seem to agree that collaboration and providing services is definitely something that's important. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Or this one actually is behind it. Okay, so tech stacks. Let's talk about tech stacks. So I consider myself from the older generation of QuickBooks users, and I've seen where in the past, businesses wanted to buy one piece of software and they wanted it to do everything. That was like their utopian world was, I can invest in one thing and I want to do as many things as possible and just an all-in-one solution. And that's really not, that worked in the past. And that's, you know, what you saw QuickBooks doing every year. Intuit, they would come out with new features and functionality, keep trying to add more and more and more feature-rich additions to their desktop software. And now they've pulled back from that. And now the positioning is, we want to build a really good core accounting software that provides the infrastructure for collaboration between our user bases. But we want to rely on third-party apps to do the heavy lifting for all the thousands and thousands of different, very specific, unique needs that a client would have. And so they've moved away from, we're going to solve everything for everybody, to we're going to do what we do best really well and provide that central infrastructure for everybody else to do what they do well. And so let the outside payroll providers integrate, let, you know, external bill pay solutions or expense management or receivable and automated billings or whatever it is, inventory management, whatever it is that you can find on the marketplace to manage something really specific for your business, go find that piece of software and add it to your accounting system, which is QuickBooks. So everything's going to be moving to a tech stack. So now when we're consulting with clients and trying to solve for everything that they want to do, we're helping them go out and pick the different softwares that they need to run their business and then bundle it all together and just know that it's got to work with their end accounting software, which will be QuickBooks. So you'll see that most people are using 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 apps. I know internally at Out of the Box, we use like probably 10 different apps. And today, I hate to admit it, we're still on the desktop version, but we're trying to move to QBO because we do have all these apps that need to talk to each other and it's just not scalable for us to stay on the desktop version. So we feel the same thing that and clients are feeling, that we need all these different apps to run our business and do all these different things. And we've got to get it so that you only enter it once, the information once, and it flows through all the other apps. So that's an education. I know when I'm trying to sell this concept to my clients, there's a pushback a little bit, again, from the older generation who still is in the mindset, I need everything in one app. I'm trying to educate them that it's just not the way of the future. You're going to need to put together a tech stack, and you need to be prepared. You're not going to just have one bill for everything. You're going to be paying for this app to do this, and that app to do this, and this app to do that. And that's okay. That's the way it's going to be in the future. That's going to give you the most flexibility to really leverage everything out there in the universe to take care of your business. So it's an education process. People are starting to adopt it. Even just in the last year, I've seen people's mindset starting to shift to this tech stack concept. But you know, it's up to us as accountants really to educate the end users that's where the world is going, whether we want to go there or not. We need to be prepared because that's what's happening.
Lisa, we had a comment. I just wanted to share. I wanted to share it was really germane to this conversation. He said, I'm in the construction space. All my clients use desktop because QBO doesn't have the full functionality. This new desktop availability will scare them and a lot will move to pure construction software. QBO will probably work for small tradesmen though. Can you comment on that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so that is like right up my alley. And I've been working, I love construction accounting. That's one of my favorite, and I'm very passionate about it. And I saw the writing on the wall, you know, that the desktop is moving away and trying to prepare my clients for being able to, in the construction space, do what they need to do. So what we've put together, I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but since the question was asked, so what we've been putting together is a way to solve for job costing, but still be able to make use of QBO. So we're leveraging third-party apps. We're encouraging them, go pick out your front-end construction app that will do all your proposal management and your, you know, collaboration with your vendors and your customers and sharing drawings and specs and all that fun stuff, that and change orders and all of that communication that has to happen in the construction world. Go ahead, pick out whatever software you want. And then we built, we put together a tech stack that has a little payroll job cost connector in there that will help us allocate job labor down to a very minute level, like you can do with the desktop software, but utilizing QBO. I will say we do leverage outside payroll services with this payroll connector that does the job costing. The reason we do that is not that we don't love QBO payroll. QBO payroll is great and we use it for a lot of clients, but in the construction space, because you need the job costing and you need some pretty crazy reports, pretty intricate reports. We need to be able to access that payroll data and pull it out and use yet other pieces of the software to give us all the reporting that we want, because we don't necessarily have all the reporting we need in QBO. So in order to do that, we have to be able to get at the data. If you're using QBO payroll, that data is kind of trapped inside a QBO because paycheck transactions are not exposed via the API. So while you can get the data in and job cost it inside QBO, if you need to rely on any third-party app to access that data and massage it and do your own reporting with it, it's kind of trapped inside QBO. So we put together a whole tech stack that includes pick your outside payroll service. We'll insert this job cost connector for payroll. We'll attach it to QBO. And then you can marry that with your front end construction data and pull it all together in a reporting engine. So again, it's best in breed, right? Go pick your different softwares and we're going to connect them all through QBO. So I've been working on this tech stack for the last year, trying to solve just for the construction space. So that was a really loaded question and I got kind of excited about it, but it really is why I've been preaching this tech stack idea for so long, because it takes a village now to run a company, not just one piece of software. It takes a whole village. So, so we can do it. If you want more information, reach out, but I have solved for this, and I am encouraging construction clients to move to QBO, and I never thought I'd say that ever in a million years, but I am doing it, and so far it's working. They seem to like it. So, okay, let's move to the next slide.
We have time for one more question that just
Oh,
came in.
sure. Sure.
What tech stack do you use for the payroll reports and construction?
So we're using a product called, you probably wouldn't find it anywhere in the universe, but we have a pretty deep relationship with them, and I can get you an introduction, but it's a company called DAPT, D-A-P-T. And they basically are a payroll connector and can connect the dots between a time capture system and an outside payroll service. And I've consulted with them on the right way to push the data back into QBO so that it can be read back out. So that's the software, and I'm happy. Reach out to us. We'll give you a personal introduction and a little tour of it. But that's what we're using. So why would a client need a data migration? We just talked about all the reasons around a tech stack and leveraging other third-party solutions that only integrate with QuickBooks Online. But some of the other reasons is their software is out of date. I just had a client that came to us and they were on 2012 Enterprise. They never upgraded, they never renewed, whatever. Somehow they were still able to run their file, and they were wanting to add other apps and attach it. And I'm like, I'm not helping you. If you're not going to upgrade your software, I am just not going to help you. You either need to upgrade your enterprise to a more recent version, because security protocols are completely different from what they were in 2012. And I'm not going to try to attach another piece of software to a 10-year-old 13-year-old piece, or whatever, 10, 12-year-old piece of software. Or they want to use applications again that are only integrate with the online. So when they go to renew their software, it's so out of date, they can't even buy it. So like, you've probably seen a lot of messaging from Intuit right now. They are not going to let new subscribers buy Pro and Premier anymore. If you're already on Pro or Premier and you have an existing subscription, then you can continue to renew that. But if you were brand new, or you're so out of, you're still on 2012 Pro, you're not going to be able to buy the new version of QuickBooks Pro. So that's going to be really important. If your software is out of date before, I forget what the exact date is, I want to say it's like April of 24, you better make sure that you have, if you want to stay on desktop, you better make sure that you have an active subscription to Pro or Premier already, in order for you to renew and continue to get those upgrades. Because once they let that go, they won't be able to buy it again. Enterprise is not going anywhere. I want to make sure everyone knows that. Enterprise has obviously much. It's made for the bigger company. It's got a lot more robust reporting. Intuit is not there on the online version with all the functionality that Enterprise has. And they're not going to discontinue Enterprise. I would assume until they have some of that same functionality, either via third-party app or directly inside of QBO. So they've assured us that Enterprise is not going anywhere. So you will see a lot of your clients will need a migration. If they want to stay on desktop, they'll just be migrating from a Pro Prom to Enterprise. Other reasons people migrate is their file is just so large. They need to start a new file, or they need to, you know, purge and start fresh. They might have corruption issues with, once the file gets to a certain size, the corruption seems to happen more often. So they just might have data integrity issues that can't be solved, and they want to start over. And sometimes when they want to start over, they want to start in the online version instead. So, or the functionality is not appropriate for them, and they need to be more scalable, and they want to move. Again, we see this mass exodus from desktop to online. Those migrations, we do tons of those. We'll talk about that more. And then just the customer service is better on the online version. The availability of assistance from Intuit, they're just much more willing to help you if you're on the online version. So let's move to the next slide. So some other scenario, another polling question. So why would a client need data migration? Or why would your clients need a data migration? What do you think the number one reason is for all of the above? Another couple of seconds. And we can close the poll. Let's go ahead and close this poll. Again, all the above. Everybody has all those needs and reasons to migrate. Okay, so let's talk about some of these other scenarios. Sometimes we see clients that will have purchased another entity. And so they've got, I've seen this quite a bit. One entity was on desktop, the other one was online, but now it's all one tax ID because they purchased it. And now they get to figure out, you know, which app are they going to move forward in. And so we've got to do migration of data to get it out of one of the apps and consolidate it into the other. So that's another reason why someone might do a migration. Negative inventory. A lot of people will try to use the QuickBooks inventory feature, don't use it well or successfully. They end up with a bunch of negatives and a bunch of garbage, and they're like, I just want to start over. This is a mess. So that's often a reason for migrating. Another common reason is architecture. They have set up their file one way, whether it's desktop or online, with an intention to do things in a certain, capture data in a certain way. And then they have a re-architecture need, and they want to redesign the whole thing. They want a new chart of accounts. They want a different type of item list. They want to use classes differently than the way they were using it before, or locations if they're on QuickBooks Online. So it could just be an architecture issue. They just want a clean start with something different. Those are all different reasons. I mean, any of the above, why someone might want to move from one piece of software to another. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are the different types of migrations. You've got QBO going to desktop, desktop going to QBO, Mac to QBO, Mac to desktop, desktop to desktop, third party to desktop, and third party to QBO. That's about all the different kinds of migrations we see in our world. And when we say third party, it's a non-Intuit software. So it's a Sage or a NetSuite or some other piece of software, pencil and paper. They're basically not using any form of QuickBooks, and they want to get onto QuickBooks. So this is when we talk about third-party migrations, that's what we mean by that. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So again, migrating from another system, you've got QuickBooks in the center, you've got all these other integrated apps. Sometimes people are migrating because they're using a homegrown application, something they built in an Access database, and they need to move to something more maintainable, or they're just, the current system is not meeting their needs anymore. They want to jump onto the QuickBooks ecosystem, or they're in a have to situation. Again, there's a new vendor they want to work with, or customer, or there is a third-party app that they want to use, and the only way to do it is to move into QuickBooks. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So we talked a little bit about sunsetting of Pro and Premier. The desktop of 2020 sunsetted in May of 2023. So what that means is if you were on 2020 and you wanted to use a connected service like payroll or merchant processing, or sometimes it's even bank feeds, they're going to force you to upgrade if you want to continue to use any of those integrated Intuit services. So that's already happened back in May. So we saw a lot of 2020 users moving into, you know, purchasing 2023. As we move to 2024, again, you're not going to be able to be a brand new Pro-Prem user, but you could continue to upgrade or pay for. Everybody's moved to the Plus. Once you renew, or once you buy 2023, all those people that went from 2020 and bought 2023, when they bought 2023, it's now a subscription. It's called Pro Plus or QuickBooks Premier Plus. The plus at the end means Intuit has converted you to basically a subscription software as a service model, even though you're buying desktop. They're making you renew it every year. So you need to get on that renewal process before they cut it off altogether. So that if you want to stay on desktop, you can continue to renew. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So how can out-of-the-box technology help? We can help your users. If this is not the business that you want to be in, we can help them switch from their current software over to QuickBooks, desktop or online. We can make sure they get discounts on ongoing discounts and training and support. And we do have a whole team of experts. So we are happy to be your back office for some of this migration that will be going on very soon, not just for the sunset, but also for the folks that are just ready to make the leap to online. So let's move to the next slide. One of these next three slides, and there might be more than that, you're going to get a copy of this presentation. I would encourage you to take a look and really kind of study these. The stuff in red is stuff you probably really need to hone in on. It's not a one-to-one, apples-to-apples conversion. There are things that don't exist in online when you move from desktop to online. There are things that won't transfer. You know, if you use Fixed Asset Manager, it's not available in QuickBooks Online, so don't plan on using it. If the client had a bunch of attachments to their invoices and bills, while the conversion of the software will happen, the attachments aren't going to come with them. So this is just stuff you want to be aware of when someone converts, that it's just not an apples-to-apples conversion. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm just going to touch on a few. So there are no job types. There's no sales orders in QBO. There's not a subtotal item type in QBO, so that's not going to come over. One thing I did learn, and I'd love to share this if you don't know this already. QuickBooks Online has a feature called projects. It's not a job, it's a project. It's a unique feature that only lives in QBO. And if your client is currently using, so that construction person that asked that construction question, this would apply to your clients. If they were using estimates in QuickBooks Desktop, and estimates gives you a column for your cost, your markup, and your total. If you convert that client from desktop to QuickBooks Online Advanced, behind the scenes, when you run that conversion tool, it will create a project in QBO for every single one of those jobs that have estimates attached, and it will bring that data over, which is kind of cool because now you can see what the estimate looked like when it was in desktop, and it will include the cost, the markup, and the total. But then you will be living in the projects world inside of QBO. So that was something I didn't realize was going to happen, and recently saw that all those estimates converted over into projects. So that's kind of cool. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So 1099s, vendor types don't convert. So if you're using that functionality to help you kind of identify which vendors you need to do 1099s for, vendors don't have types, and mileage is not available in its form in the way you use it inside of desktop. What does not convert are all those contact fields, credit limits, and a lot of the custom fields. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so these are a bunch of things that don't convert. Warehouse, price level, serial number. So all the advanced inventory things that you might be using in QuickBooks Desktop. If you're using that kind of stuff, you are going to need to be looking for a third-party app that's going to handle your inventory, because QBO is just not going to be advanced enough to do it by itself. It'll work great with an add-on inventory program, but just by itself to try to do the inventory for those kinds of advanced things, it's just not going to be robust enough. QBO is only FIFO, valuation of inventory. So that's just an important thing that as an accountant you should be aware. Desktop, unless you have advanced inventory, is basically average costing of inventory. When you convert to QBO, it's FIFO. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Last but not least, payroll. So payroll, we see a ton of clients that struggle with this. So they try to do the conversion on their own. They jump into QuickBooks Online. They might have been using some payroll service on the desktop side. They convert to QBO. They jump in, they set up payroll, and they start using the QBO payroll. Guess what doesn't transfer? None of the year-to-date amounts transfer. So if they just jump in and start using QBO and don't read all the pop-ups as they're starting to do payroll, their year-to-date paychecks and their 941s and their W-2s and everything is going to be wrong. So as an accountant, this is a great advisory add-on that you could provide to them, as helping them get up and running if they want to use QBO payroll. And QBO payroll, all of it is kind of like the assisted payroll, where Intuit's going to file and pay the taxes for the client. So that can be a mess if they don't load year-to-date properly, because all the reporting to the agencies will be wrong. So, okay, let's move to the next slide. So timing consideration, when you're talking to your client about moving from potentially desktop to online, or even starting a new desktop file, you want to find out when is your next payroll run? Is payroll even involved? Are you doing it inside of QuickBooks, or is this a good time to maybe start outsourcing payroll so we can make that conversion a little bit easier for you? Are you using inventory? Are we going to have to load beginning quantities and values, or should we be looking at a third-party inventory solution? When is the year end? Are we really close? Yeah, we're in November. If your year end is December, maybe just wait, finish your year in the current software and then do the conversion. Do they have an Intuit merchant account attached? Intuit merchant accounts don't transfer to QBO. So they're going to need a new merchant account, and they're going to need to, you know, they've got stored credit card information inside of desktop. That could be a big pain point for them. So they need to be prepared that that would be something they need to address as well. And if they're using a front end app to integrate to QuickBooks, so if they decide to move from desktop to online, they need to understand, how does that front end app integrate with QuickBooks? If you disconnect a front end app from a desktop file and then reconnect it to a QBO file, it may duplicate customers or vendors or items depending on how that app is programmed to talk to QuickBooks. Lists in QuickBooks, customers, vendors, items, have a unique identifier on the back end that the end user can't see or touch. It's just a unique identifier. And a lot of third-party developers use that unique identifier to talk to the lists and pass the information back and forth between their application and QuickBooks. And if you break the connection to, say, a desktop file and then reconnect it to an online file, the unique identifier that's assigned to customer ABC may be different in the online platform than it was in the desktop. And so that front end integration doesn't understand that, and it creates a whole new customer record because it doesn't think it exists. So there's things like that that your clients got to be aware. It's not always as simple as just, you know, discontinuing an integration and then reconnecting it to a new file. It could cause a lot of problems. So you want to get in front of it, have those conversations, get your clients to have those conversations with the app developer on what they need to know. And a lot of times they can go in and clear out those unique identifiers in their platform so that when it's integrated for the first time, it will pick them up and read them as new in their system, and everything can work out. But it needs to be a planned approach, or at least something that somebody talks about before it happens. Okay, let's move to the next slide. So we have a couple things that we put together with Insightful Accountant to help you guys move your clients from desktop to online if they want. We have two different packages, and you're going to get all these at the end of this presentation. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but we have what's called a basic migration that does high level checks with a post-conversion comparison of accrual-based financials before and after. And then if you can move to the next slide, Jeanette, we have a more detailed conversion migration that will, you know, do double check at the customer and vendor level to make sure that their balances and inventory and reconciliations, things like that. It's more detailed migration analysis pre and post migration. So we have both of those services that we can do behind the scenes. You guys can bill your clients and we can do it for you. You can mark it up, or we can engage direct with your client at whatever level you're comfortable with. So we're here to help you if you don't have the internal expertise to do it. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So when you are working with your clients and talking to them about migrations, you want to make sure that you're helping manage their expectations. And this is where you come in with your advisory services. The platform is going to look and feel completely different, and they're going to need training. So you should put together some training packages for them. Even if we do the migration, you guys can do all the training on the other end if that's what you want to do. They're going to be really uncomfortable at the beginning, and you're going to have to do a lot of hand holding. You're going to educate them about the need for tech stacks, that it's not a all-in-one solution. You can help them with setting up payroll. You can help them with getting integrated to a new merchant account. You can help them coordinate with their third-party apps. So there's so much more opportunity for you to help make their experience better, but to keep you involved in that process and really become their advisor along the way. So, okay, let's move to the next slide. We just talked about that. These are all the different things you can do. Once you get them converted, if they do move to the online platform, you'll find that you can upsell them on working collaboratively for bookkeeping, year-end accounting services, much easier. So it will really benefit you in the long run to help them through this process. Okay, next slide. So out of the box, it's done over 7,500 conversions. We work very closely with Intuit. We are one of their outsourced partners to handle their desktop to online conversions. We do both payroll migrations as well as the desktop to online. So if you need help, rest assured we're here behind the scenes to help you. Let's go to the next slide. We have over 60 employees in over 20 states. So we are very big in the Pro Advisor world. We believe in that program and, you know, really are anything and everything QuickBooks. So we try to make sure that we're all up to date on everything that's going on in the Intuit world. And again, we're here to help you. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. If you have questions, Jen Abney on our team, it's Jennifer with one N, .Abney, ABNEY at outoftheboxtechnology.com. She will be your contact to, you know, say, hey, I got 5 clients I want to move. I don't want to do it myself. While there are tools out there to do the migrations, I can tell you some can be very complex and some are easy. But if you don't want to be in the middle of it and you don't want to worry about it, we can do it for you. So I think at this point, I just want to open it up and see if there's any last questions.
We don't have anything yet. We had some more specific questions about the construction conversation we had earlier. We can reach out to those people individually to get their questions answered. But this was a fantastic presentation. You know, it's all about looking at this as an opportunity. You know, there's excellent opportunity for clients, for practitioners, for everybody. So thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. All right. Well, have fun. Hope everybody has a great holiday. And thank you, Insightful Accountant, for having us on again. It's always great working with you guys.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for participating during this webinar as well. With the questions alone, that was a lot. And they're really specific. Thank you for being really specific. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Well, I hope you spend your holidays well. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.